of understanding what nothing is, what something is at the moment. And I think scientists are generally in agreement with that their knowledge only goes so far. Now, you can then say, well, if it only goes so far, then there's something beyond that which is spiritual. Or you can say, there's something beyond that which we just don't understand.
And that, what we would say, is the metaphysical. Now, notice what you've just said, that nothing by, because you've got to look at the definitive terms, nothing by its definition is the absence of everything and anything. So therefore, there's only one category of it. I mean, for example, if you go into an empty box, you open it, and you see the box is empty. You can see the space around the box. However, there is something there in the sense there are molecules, atoms, protons, neutrons, particles popping in and out of existence. So there is something there. It's just that it's not discernible. But what we're therefore saying, but nothing is the absence, note of everything and anything. Hey, walaikum salam. How you doing?
Yeah, good.
You busy, or are you going to be?
I've got some food festival.
Okay.
But I'll speak to you. I don't want to.
No, that's fine. No problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you definitely need to ask permission next time, okay? It's really important that you ask permission.
It's not mine.
Okay, but
you won't be up. We give you our word. We got. They're only filming me. They're only filming a secondary to that. We also got something referred to as a blurring effect, whereby if for any momentarily reason the camera is diverted, not that it is, that if it does, we can block that out.
That's fine. Just so you know, because legally, otherwise you're going to be in hot water if someone then sees themselves and you haven't.
We will give you the name of the channel.
Yeah.
Anyone?
Yeah.
You can repeat.
That's fine.
So you can watch after we've had our conversation. You can actually view everything. We'll give you all 3 channels, and then you can see our comment. And I can assure you, you will not be on there. Okay. That's my assurance for you. Okay. Thank you.
Now, just quickly.
Yeah.
Intellectually, I find this really interesting, and part of my issue, if I have an issue with religion as such, not necessarily Islam or Christianity or Judaism specifically, but is that there are many things about religion that I now think are unhelpful to modern life, and if I do at some point come back to a faith or to some version of spirituality, I don't see why I have to put myself into any
category.
Faith category. And that if I live my life in a positive, beneficial, kind, generous way, that for me is living spiritual. And I would not want to, at the moment, associate myself with actually quite a few of the religions that are powerful and have the majority of believers today.
Why do you feel as such?
Well, there's a lot of stuff. Now, it's hard this, because as I said, I think the media amplifies lots of things. But certainly with Christians, there are a lot of evangelical groups that I fundamentally disagree with. And when I say fundamentally, I mean strongly disagree with.
Can you suggest one thing from within evangelical proselytizing?
The oppression of women.
Okay.
And that also applies to Islam, and it also applies to Judaism. Now, that is obviously the extremes of each of those religions, but it's something I feel very strongly about. I see it in action across the world at the moment in all of those different religions.
Can you specify like an example of where today in these societies women are oppressed? I mean, what gives you that certain inkling that that's the case?
In America, there is a lot of stuff on social media about women now knowing their place and reassuming a position of subservience among Christian evangelicals. Islam, the Taliban, as we all know at the moment, are oppressing women in Afghanistan, and they are taking away their voice, literally. They're not allowed now to speak on the street. And both of those things, Judaism, I can't quote you, but I mean, generally there is this idea that women occupy a particular place in Judaism and men occupy a different place. So I really have a problem with that. As a woman who's come from the background that I have, I feel that I should have a voice, I feel that my kids should have voices, and that there is no discernible harm from women having a voice.
Yes.
And that really disturbs me. So that is another reason why, intellectually, I think how interesting, great, blah, blah, blah. but the extension of the practice of religion is worrying.
Okay, so what we would say in regards to this, as theists, we believe that God is the actual decider, the arbitrator as to what is considered to be a coherent running of a society based upon the functions that males and females do. Now, traditionally speaking, even in countries like the UK, I wanted to actually make another point, but I'll just make this point here.
Yeah.
Now, up to 1989, where the Children's Act was repealed, which stated in section 2.1a that the natural guardian of the family is the father. That was within the Act, of the Children's Act.
But there's a reason for that, yeah.
Yeah, so that was based upon the historical notion amongst Western societies, which was built on the infrastructure or the structure of the biblical text, you see. And I think we can all accept that. So, as Mike mentioned, there were gender roles which were performed, which were universal to not just Islam or Christianity, but also to all world's religions. The coherency of a father going out to work, providing for the family. In turn, the female, she would maintain and look after their household, having strong family bonds, strong structure, strong inclination of the way we live. Today, in today's societies, where we see particularly women who have now gone out to work, we see, for example, issues developing as that. Not that I'm saying in itself that this is endemically be wrong. What I'm saying is look at the massive increase in divorce rates we have in the UK. Now, did you know, according to official statistics, 65% of marriages fall within the first 4 years?
Shall I tell you why? Because women are of independent means. Divorce is easier to get, and therefore divorce happens more regularly. There are, of course, other reasons, but that is a very, very big factor in this argument. In the old days, women didn't have a voice and they weren't able to get a divorce. They didn't have any financial means after the divorce, so it wasn't in their interest too. So they were stuck in marriages where they weren't necessarily happy. Now listen, I'm not saying that's the only thing. I take your point that there may be societal problems, but how do we know that those societal problems come from the fact that women go out to work?
Because what happens, the studies have shown, Pew Research has shown, that in particular with women going out to work and traditionally being more career orientated and then having families later on in life, and then as a result of their careers taking a priority perhaps even over and beyond the matrimony with the husband and wife, then what I'm just saying I would not agree with that, and I would. Sorry, with due respect, I didn't finish my little point. That's right, because I wanted to build the holistic picture.
Yeah.
So within this pretext, what we observe is that when these gender roles are redefined, and then women are out working due to societal needs, then as a result, couples drift apart. Career becomes a more, shall we say, singular position that both parties hold, and as a result, because they go apart and then the children really don't know what type of defined roles that are played, hence we see mass child truancy and societal general standards of normality and which were ingratiated, they seem to have disappeared. So as a result of this, these are definitely factors. It causes great stress on the family, two incomes coming in, children not being aware as to which parent to turn to, if indeed you're married. In today's societies, so many of the kids, they don't even know who their fathers are. So these are societies in which we have.
Now I feel that we've moved into massively generalised territory, and I'm sort of more and more uncomfortable, because I can tell you, I am a married woman. I have 2 children. I work, my husband works. We successfully run a household. We're very much in love, and our children do not play church. So I have just negated everything you've said. I am not an isolated case. Okay, so I would ask that you went out and spoke to more people like me.
I'm not disputing that definitely are couples who have really. Sorry to interrupt you, but
there are many couples who live in blended families whose children know exactly who their fathers are. I think this is all stuff that's kind of been fed to everyone. There are, of course, societal problems. Of course there are, but to blame them on the breakdown of gender allocation is nonsensical. Apart from anything, in London, statistically, if we're going to talk about statistics, 2 people in the couple have to work in order to survive, in order to live in London.
Yes.
So if you're going to take that away from a couple, their financial independence is going to be affected, the woman will have no financial independence, which makes her in a very compromised position. And that, in the eyes of God, if that's, it's surely wrong.
But the law protects females. So, for example, I would beg to the contrary, and I'll give you a little example of such. Just say, for example, hypothetically speaking, with your example, if your children are under 18, just say you've got 3 kids there, 10, 12, and 8 as an example. Now, in the event of a divorce occurring, God forbid, from just say any hypothetical example, then the courts will naturally give the children to yourself as opposed to your husband, and in turn you get the entire estate. So it's not like perhaps in yesteryear. Now women are, in fact, I would argue to the contrary. I would argue that women are in fact positions of authority and dominance now within a matrimonial household. Evidence of this is we have organisations such as Families Need Fathers, Fathers for Justice. They've popped up over the last generation or so as a result of the way the esoteric child family courts are now pressurized.
Why do you think that happened in the first place? Why do you think those family courts were created? I admit that in some cases it's been taken too far, but what do you think was the very origins of that?
I think the general, in my view, the general understanding was taken was as a result of abuse of women, and as a result of this they decided to crack down on men. But I think it's a bit more complex than that singularly. Because
it's not deciding to crack down, they're protecting.
I think it's, but what happens?
With a level of protection they didn't have.
But what happens within that protection? The system is actually discriminating against men, and I'll give you evidence of this as well. So, for example, just say a couple, with the hypothetical example I've given with 3 children. Perhaps you'd like to come slightly this way to the left so the camera is not viewing you. So, hypothetically, three children who are the age that I've given. Now, just say, God forbid, a issue occurs between a husband and a wife. In many instances, say even the husbands are calling the police out as a result of domestic abuse that they are suffering at the hands of the female perpetrators. Did you know there's been a massive 40% increase in reported domestic violence issues in regards to men over the last 15 years? 40, and God knows what the figure is. So what's happened now, this is not simply about giving women the rights and protection which they are ought, but it's more so that they are in a position of dominance. So in a hypothetical example I've just said, I know, because I've got a legal background, in which I've observed myself quintessentially that if a male calls out the police in regards to what he believes is domestic abuse of his female partner, what commonly happens is that if 2 police officers will come, one will be sent to one spouse will be sent to one room and the other spouse to another room. And commonly what will happen, even short of absolute tremendous violence against the male as an example, then what will happen
I take your point. I've got a friend actually who's going through a similar thing. He's a guy and he's going through divorce courts, and he feels like he is being cracked down on, to use your expression.
Even though he may be the victim himself.
He may be, she is also the victim. And that's what this conversation is missing, is this duality. I find it really interesting, and I'm going to have to go now.
Okay, no problem. That's fine. No problem.
No, but I find it really interesting that I brought out this idea of oppression of women.
Yes.
And all that has happened since then is that you have given me reasons why that should happen.
Why it should happen? I don't.
Really disturbing.
No, that's not the case. What I've seek to show, maybe this has been lost in the general sphere of the conversation. What I have seek to show to you is the law now in this country, because we're here in England, we're not anywhere else in the world. So in this country at the moment, women's positions are so powerful and strong, it's now gone over, and because you exceeded the point. Okay, perhaps then.
I know in some cases, I think you're right, that the courts perhaps try and overprotect and make too much space. In most cases, women are still very vulnerable, and I can give you lots of personal experience on that. And the other thing I would say is that wouldn't it be sad if we got to a point with religion, courts, the state, any kind of law, where we had decided that women should stay at home? Our fear of that is that then our freedoms get taken away even more, and I am not in a position to stand here with you and have this conversation.
I would say
I think it's been really valuable for me. I hope it has for you. But what a dark day it would be if we get to that point where I can't stand here and talk about it.
In the Times newspaper, just going back 10 years ago, I remember reading an article which stated that 8 out of 10 women, I wish I could bring the article in front, but I remember clearly reading in it. I've got a really good memory, it sticks like glue. So 8 out of 10 women wish they were staying at home looking after their children. This is from an independent source of the Times newspaper by a female activist, equal rights activist. Yes.
I also sometimes think, God,
Pat, this side a bit, so you were very eager not to be in camera, so I just want to make sure.
No, I just want my back.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
I also have moments when I say I want to stay at home today and look after my kids. I wish I was there this afternoon to see them when they get home from school. I can't. My husband says the same thing. He can't. So there's no difference. It's just about choice. Anyway, I have to go because I do need to go and look after my kids. It was very interesting talking to you.
Delighted speaking to you.
Yeah.
Can I perhaps listen before you do offer you a copy of the Quran? I think you've already got a copy, haven't you, of the
I've
Quran?
got a copy of the Quran.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, you have a great day.
Okay.
Thank you. All the
Bye.
best to you. Thanks, brother. So, an interesting conversation with the lady who's very passionate about what she believes. However, I was trying to make some points about the situation we find ourselves currently here in the UK. Now, she was going over and beyond to say, and she gave an example, in fact, of she knows a male who's going through this situation, implying that he's the victim and he feels everything's going against him. However, she was still saying afterwards that he's also, the other lady is a victim as well. Well, hold on. If the courts are going against the male, then how can the female also be a victim in this instant? And she also acceded to the point that the courts are overprotecting them. No, it's not overprotection. This is giving them rights over and beyond the men, so the men become subdued. In Islam, in the Bible, it says the following: the head of woman is man, the head of man is Christ, the head of Christ is God. They've usurped the church, these esoteric powers. In the Quran, it says the following: that the obedient wives are devoted to Allah and to their husbands. So the powers that be are determined to turn it the other way around. They're giving us a new moral order in which we live, where women will be dominating. In matrimonial affairs today, if you've got 3 children and both partners are working, what happens? The children are aged 10, 12 and 8. You both work, you both earn the same amount of money, you share co-equal responsibility in maintaining your children. What happens as a result of this? If a divorce takes place, the courts will automatically give the children to the mother, and therefore she will be in a situation of dominance and power. This will enable her to get 90%, she will get 90% of the assets. She will decide whether the children can see their father or not. Even if a court order gives a good dad the opportunity to see their father, the courts don't enforce it if the mother does not wish for the children to be seen by the father. So hence men are in trouble. If you're a Christian or an atheist or a Muslim or anyone who is male, who wants to know why is the system supporting women over and beyond, and you feel you're being entrapped in the system. If you've gone through this particular system, there is a big game going on against you. If you knew what that game was, it's to do with the fact that they're trying to change universal morality upside down. This is all in the precipice. Muslims and Christians, attention. You have to listen to Islamic, you have to read up on Islamic eschatology, on what will be the setting before the coming of Christ. If you check this out, because the Bible fails in its prophecies. Matthew's prophecy fails when they were expecting the disciples to return, Christ to return within the life of the disciples. This did not happen. Christ says this generation will not pass before the Lord. So Paul says this generation will not pass before the Lord returns. Matthew's gospel I was reading today, same thing is said, that this generation will be at hand as Christ returns, but that didn't happen. So Islamic eschatology tells us this is what's going to happen. These powers that be, they are Satanists. They esoterically work. Okay, Satan, he gets into control at the top, and then he propels the narrative to the masses. This is how it works. This is why we've got LGBTQ, feminism, atheism, a new triumvirate come together to give us a new moral structure in which we should live, contrary to what God has revealed. We're here every Saturday in Stratford. If you ever want to come by, if you're a victim of domestic abuse and you're a male and you feel the system has gone totally against you, if you're a father, you can't see your kids, come to Stratford Saturday 2:30. I will give you such an answer, it will leave you with goosebumps. You will literally feel a tingling sensation going down your spine. This is a game against you. from the social. There was a time when Priti Patel was the Home Secretary. Then you had the head of the Metropolitan Police, Cressida Dick. Then you had the social service workers, and then you had the courts. All of them run by females who are anti-men. The social workers who are female, working behind the scenes. They come into the field because they are rabidly anti-men. They want to take out any indiscretions men have done in the past now. So they always favour women, and women dominate now. And they know it. This is why men are cowering in relationships. This is why there's been a massive 40% increase in domestic violence against men. That's the official figure. What the real figures, we don't know. That's why the media castigate organisations such as the Families Need Fathers and Fathers for Justice. Why have these organisations come about? Because the fathers are now crushed. And the females know they are using it and they are manipulating the system, because from the top to the bottom, this is the way that the universal word of God is being changed upside down to propel them, to make them dominant. Men are now subdued. Think about this Saturday, every Saturday 2:30. I can go into extreme further detail, and I'll stand for Christians in particular. Why am I reiterating this for you? You need to know what the system will be in place before Christ returns, and it's spiraling towards that. It's spiraling towards that. Okay, thank you for listening. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.